Happy Wellness Wednesday, everyone. Marco Rodriguez coming at you. I know this is a little late in the day, but I believe it'll be worth your while. Now, we know that October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and as I sat scrolling through all the posts about breast cancer awareness, this thought came to my mind. First, I asked myself, why is this happening? And what I mean by that is, why is it that in the United States of America, the most powerful nation on earth, why do we have amongst the highest rate of breast cancer in the world? In fact, we have the highest rate of cancer in the world, period. Did you know that our life expectancy in America has been declining since 2012? The federal survey finds that 119 million Americans use prescription drugs. That's nearly half of all Americans over the age of 12 who are taking prescription medications. 66% of all adults in the United States use prescription drugs. Now, seriously, let's just think about that for a moment. We have the most advanced technology in the world. We spend billions on yo-yo diets, and yet we are more overweight and less healthy than many other countries. The average weight for men rose dramatically from 166 pounds in 1960 to over 197 pounds today. So why is this happening? I mean, yes, look, we should take personal responsibility for our own health, but what is the role of the FDA, and how did we get to the point where chemicals which are banned in many other countries are allowed in the food in this country? Now, over the next few minutes, I want to explain some facts, and yes, to be honest, I'm going to give you some of my opinions as to why we are where we are today in terms of our health. Now, if you study it out, the origins of the Food and Drug Administration can be traced or tracked back to 1906 when the Pure Food and Drug Act was passed. Its purpose was to protect the public against adulteration of food and health products identified as helpful without scientific proof. Now, get that. It was the Pure Food and Drug Act. So, what happened? How did we get here? Well, first, it doesn't make much sense to combine food and drugs into one organization. You're just asking for trouble. And you give the FDA overarching power that supersedes the constitutional right to choose, all in the name of public health. Yeah, you're really asking for trouble now. Now, you give the FDA the power to self-govern, and now you've really created a very powerful enemy. Next, you create political action committees and lobbyists to influence legislators to dismiss the harmful side effects of many of the chemicals in our food. This leads to the eroding of the original standards set in 1906. Next, now that the pharmaceutical companies are protected by the government with lower standards, pharmaceutical companies are free to create adulterated food and synthetic medications that allow less than immediate deadly side effects, as long as they disclose them, usually in small print or in commercials where they talk really fast, right? Now, it's time to change the public paradigm, and they change it by convincing you that nutraceuticals or natural compounds don't work. They call them things like snake oil, right? But their synthetic and more expensive version is real medicine. As a healthcare provider, I find it strange that given the natural or synthetic option, most people believe that the synthetic version, i.e. medication, is actually more powerful than the natural alternative. So they've succeeded in changing our paradigm. Next, the pharmaceutical companies begin donating millions of dollars to medical schools, which of course the medical schools will gladly accept. And the pharmaceutical companies will donate in exchange for the ability to influence the curriculum. The result is that most medical schools now require several years of pharmacology as opposed to maybe 1 or 2 hours of nutraceuticals. And the result of that is that the average physician is programmed to prescribe medication even if there is a natural alternative. And there are some natural alternatives. For example, recently in a controlled trial, 60 people with depression were randomized into 3 groups. One group took Prozac. The second took 1 gram of curcumin, which is a natural compound. And the third group took Prozac and curcumin. After 6 weeks, the curcumin group had improvements similar to Prozac without the side effects. Now, how many physicians out there are giving curcumin for depression instead of Prozac? I don't know of a single one. How about you? In addition, with legislatures in your back pocket, the food companies are now free to create adulterated non-food, all in the name of creating low-cost sustenance for the masses, aka fighting hunger. Then you make organic and other real health foods so expensive that only the wealthy can afford them, and then you exclude 90% of the population in the world. And it doesn't take a genius to know that when you put artificial food inside your body doesn't know what to do with them. And over the course of time, this may cause the mitochondria, which is the structure inside your cell that processes the food and non-food, it causes it to break down. Did you know that the average 50-year-old has less than 50% of the mitochondria that they did as a young person? And by the time you're in your 70s, you might have as little as 10% of the mitochondria that you did as a youth. Now, the loss of mitochondria can lead to all kinds of different diseases. Did you know that every single type of cancer has one thing in common? You guessed it, mitochondrial dysfunction. That's right. Even foods that are labeled as health foods are nothing of the sort. And they'll trick you by using terms like natural flavor. And I always wondered why they use that term. And it turns out the term natural flavor simply means it tastes natural, but there's nothing natural about it. So for many of you, this might seem a little overwhelming and cause you to just throw your hands up in the air and in frustration and simply quit. But there is something you can do about it. And part of it is good food selection. We also recommend drinking filtered water, alkaline water, and of course, the foundation is following a biohacking protocol. If we know that over 200 diseases are linked to oxidative stress and mitochondrial dysfunction, doesn't it make sense that you would want to lower oxidative stress and improve your mitochondria? Well, the good news is that there is a group of scientists that I call the good guys that have created a protocol that reduces oxidative stress by an average of 40% in 30 days and up to 70% in 120 days, as well as promoting mitochondrial biogenesis. Now, I've been biohacking for over a year, and even though I've taken over 52 trips around the sun, my oxidative stress levels, or in other words, my cell age, is consistent with a 25-year-old male. My body hasn't felt this young in decades. My knee pain is gone, back spasms are gone, and I've experienced many other health benefits that I don't necessarily want to share in public. Needless to say, I've seen miracles. I have a good friend of mine, Matthew Hardesty. He's a veteran, and so we always thank him for his service. He was on 22 different medications, taking 64 pills a day. After biohacking for 1 year, he is now down to 0 medications. My other friend, Patsy Caulfield, her mom had stage 3 colon cancer. Biohacked for 1 year and now has no markers, no cancer markers, without chemo. Now, the FDA requires me to say that we don't make any claims to treat, cure, or mitigate disease, and I will follow their guidelines. Maybe the dozens of miracles I'm experiencing are all coincidences, but hey, I'll take them. So guys, I hope that was helpful. Diane and I, look, we love you. Even if we don't know you, we love you anyways, and we want to see you well. So that's all I have for today. Remember, guys, as I always like to say, there is a better way to live.